Good morning. In today's Bible stories, we get a little glimpse of life. Families are hard. There are weeds. Now, I don't know about you, but I live in the mountains and poison oak is my least favorite weed. If you live in the suburbs, imagine that all of your dandelions are poisonous. Yeah, now you can't go into that part of your yard anymore unless you plan on using up some of your PPE. It's crazy nice. But that's part of living in the mountains. We have land. My noisiest neighbors are turkeys. I get to see baby quails run around. There are kids in the neighborhood who have squirt gun fights and will haul plywood down the street to their backyard for it. We have deer, many more birds than I have figured out how to name, and lizards galore. Our neighborhood is alive. But there are weeds that will give you an itchy rash. But we've been growing peas and kale, which is fun, because is there anything more delicious than fresh peas? But the worms have eaten like half of the kale. And I saw the quails eating them the other day too. But that's life. There are weeds. And maybe worms and quails. At this particular time, many of us are stuck with people. Now, hopefully we're stuck with people we like. I hope that most of us are stuck with some of our favorite people and reminded why we like and love these people so much. I truly hope that for you. But there are weeds. And sometimes before we're able to harvest, before we're able to really see what we've grown, sometimes the weeds feel like they're taking over. Sometimes I look out in my yard and I swear there's only poison oak. I lose sight of the oaks, the madrones, the kale and the peas, the lavender, the rosemary, the assortment of wildflowers. That dang poison oak can make them hard to enjoy. But the flowers are there, growing strong despite the poison oak and despite my preoccupation with it. I mean, what is a weed? There are bursts of red, pink, purple, yellow, and a whole lot of green all over the place in my yard. I often think about how particularly lovely flowers would have been in ages past. It's something we don't really talk about when we talk about biblical times. But I think about color in biblical times with frequency, because I think it's one of the most hard to imagine differences between modern and ancient life. Dyes were expensive. People like me wouldn't have a colorful wardrobe. Most of us wouldn't. Imagine what a brown, tan, beige world people lived in once upon a time, and at certain times a year, and especially in certain places like the ones our biblical texts come from. Imagine how exponentially special spring would be each year when color returned. Imagine how impressive that fall moment would be when the color of the late summer sky matched the burning orange of the leaves. Imagine how exponentially beautiful each blossom would be, a burst of color in a brown world. Color would come at certain times of year like God's magic tricks. Look, I can make purple, bright red, blue, fuchsia. There are these bright magenta flowers in my yard. I don't know what they are. They look somewhat like pea blossoms, but they're not. Right now they pop in the sunlight like fluorescents, but in a few days they shrivel to a pale purple. Maybe in the ancient world, I would marvel at the rich turning red of poison oak, a dangerous beauty, a seductive plant whose story you must know to navigate. I mean, what is a weed? One of my favorite midrashic children's stories is that of Naamah, the wife of Noah, and she's charged with bringing all the seeds with them on the ark so that they can save the plants. She nearly leaves the dandelions behind, but God says, and tells her to bring them. God makes the dandelions flourish on the earth thereafter. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was young, I loved dandelions. I mean, you can call them a weed all you want, but they're kind of the most fun thing that grew in my backyard. How many imaginative wishes could we collectively count if we could capture every dreaming thought given to the wind on a dandelion seed? How easy it is to forget we're planting weeds when we give a dandelion to a child. I mean, what is a weed other than perspective? COVID-19 and our reversions in course are worrying to many of us. Perhaps, as we're all at home, being a bit more introspective, we're realizing different ways of looking at things. Is this why things seem to be shifting in terms of public perspective on Black Lives Matter? Is it why we're cooking more, spending more time with family? Part of it? Is it why we can't seem to keep ourselves out of national parks? Maybe we are finally, as a culture, starting to realize the depth of our problem with racism. Maybe we are finally, as a culture, starting to realize the depth of our dependence on market capitalism and how ill-equipped many of the systems we took for granted are for this moment and for meeting our future. Maybe this moment can give us a shift in perspective. May the season, as strange as it is, bring you and your household a bountiful harvest of love. Love that you can pass on and that grows like a weed. Amen.